basic graphing calculator functions. A graphing calculator can be used for many things. First of all, it can do all the same basic operations that any calculator can: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It will also do the trigonometric functions and their inverses. You can do many statistical analyses with them. It will graph functions, statistical plots, and inequalities. You can work with matrices. There are special functions like logarithms, exponents, and roots that you can do. Finally, you can use it to create and graph sequences. A graphing calculator has several advantages over a scientific one, other than graphing. A graphing calculator is programmable. You can create programs that do different things for you, like the quadratic formula or other complex math operations. You can also use programs to interface with other tools like CBRs or other data gatherers. Graphing calculators can link together to share data, programs, or applications. You can always see your operations on the screen of a graphing calculator. The calculator has been programmed to understand order of operations, so you can enter a calculation as it looks, and the calculator uses order of operations to find the answer. There are more operations on a graphing calculator than a scientific one. This allows you to do more things with and use them in more contexts. Finally, there are special applications created only for graphing calculators that just don't exist for scientific ones. Anything from financial programs to probability simulations are available on graphing calculators. In this video, we will learn how to do the basic operations, graph functions, and use a menu on the calculator called the Math menu. The basic operations on a graphing calculator work just like they do on paper. Operations are done according to the order of operations and moving left to right. Therefore, doing an operation with two numbers just involves typing the operation correctly and pressing enter. When you start to involve several operations, the programming of the calculator takes over. Since the calculator has been programmed in order of operations, it will calculate expressions based on that. If you intend to do an operation before another, even if it comes first in the order of operations, use parentheses to make sure the outcome is what you want. Use the negative sign for negative numbers, not the subtraction sign. The calculator only knows the subtraction sign as subtraction. To graph functions, we must have a function solved for y. If a function is not solved for y, then you must do so in order to graph it on the calculator. To graph, you press the y equals button and enter your function without the y equals into one of the spaces provided. You can graph up to 10 different functions if you so choose. To see the graph, press the graph button. You can trace along the function and to find points using the trace button. If you have a specific point you're looking for, you can enter that in for x by typing the number in and then pressing enter. The tracing point will jump to that point on the graph. Sometimes when you graph, the function doesn't appear on the graph screen. It's a good idea to start with the standard window, then adjust it from there. So let's graph a new function. To start with a standard window, I can use the zoom button. Press zoom, then hit 6 for Z standard or zoom standard. The graph window pops up in a standard window, that is, -10 to 10 in both x and y directions. Notice that the graph is cut off at the bottom. This means that I need to adjust my window to see the whole graph. To do that, I press the window button. The current window settings are listed. Xmin is the lowest value of x shown, and Xmax is the highest. The XSCL, or X scale, determines how many tick marks are shown. This allows you to see approximate values for points. The Ymin, Ymax, and Y scale do the same for Y. These are the only settings we'll worry about. Because I know the vertex of the parabola is off the bottom of my screen, I only need to adjust the Ymin number and possibly the Y scale if the distance between Ymin and Ymax is fairly large. Let's try making Ymin -20 to see if that works. So that's better, but I still don't see the whole graph. I also notice that there are a lot of tick marks on the y-axis. The next time that I change Ymin, I'll also change the Y scale to reduce the number of tick marks. Let's try -35 for Ymin, and I'll scale the y-axis by 5. There we go. The whole graph is shown. I can see that the vertex is about -30 for Y and somewhere between 3 and 4 for X. As far as graphing goes, that's it for now. We'll explore other pieces of the graphing functionality later. The Math menu on the calculator can be found using the Math button. When you press it, there are 4 menus there. To move between them, you can press the left and right buttons. The menus are Math, Num for numbers, CPX for complex numbers, and PRB for probability. We'll only look at the first 2 menus and only a few functions. In the Math menu, you might find the first 5 functions useful. The first converts a decimal to a fraction, if the decimal is a rational number. The second does the opposite. It converts a fraction to a decimal, but the calculator does that naturally anyway. The third is the cube function, also known as the third power. The fourth one is the cube root, or the third root. And the fifth one is the xth root function. The only function from the num menu will be the absolute value, which is the first one. For the most part, each of these functions just needs a number to work with, technically called an argument. For the fraction and decimal functions and the cubing function, you put the number in front of the function like this. For others, except the xth root, you put the argument after. Remember to close any parentheses. For the xth root, you put the number for what root you're looking for in front, then the number in the radical after it. So the fifth root of 32 looks like this. That's all we need right now from the math menu. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.